important.
It is important. And by the way, good afternoon or good morning or good evening, depending on when you're watching or listening to the Enough Already podcast. My name is Fingers Malloy. Thanks for spending part of your morning, afternoon, or evening tuning in to us. Tracy L. Connors is my lovely co-host. Hello, Tracy.
Hello, Fingers.
So, Trump may be backing down on a vaping ban. We're going to get to that in a little bit. Biden is punching back against domestic violence. we have to hit that audio as well. But, of course, all the talk is impeachment, Tracy. And there's just been a lot of fun stuff going on in the media. And I want to lead off right away with Fredo.
You know that's a slur, right?
Oh, okay, Fredo. Chris Cuomo. Cuomo? How does Rush Limbaugh say it? Cuomo. Cuomo?
Cuomo. It's Cuomo.
It's Cuomo.
Yeah.
So he's on with, who was it, Dana Bash? Is it Dana?
It's one of those like Brady Bunch panels where they've got 9 people in there. Let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Excuse me, it's only 8. So Alice was out shopping.
Oh, before we get to this, can I tell you a little story?
Sure.
If you don't mind, and I'm sorry, we didn't talk about this beforehand. Yesterday, I'm on YouTube, and I don't know why this popped up, but a video of the coverage of CNN's coverage of the Reagan assassination attempt popped up in my feed, and it was 2 hours and 40 minutes long. Tracy, I watched the whole thing.
Wow.
Bernard Shaw from the CNN news desk. The fascinating thing was with this video, and I encourage people, if you're history buffs and if you're a history buff or you crave to see what real news, how it used to be reported, you should look this up on YouTube. They had the lead up to Reagan's speech in 1980 in front of the AFL-CIO at the Washington Hilton. They previewed the speech. They talked about other stories, Tracy, and they had 2 news anchors. They were doing a newscast, Tracy. It was unreal. It's something like I haven't seen in decades. One anchor said, there is very important trade talks going on between China and Europe. Jim Jeffords has the story. And then they went for like a 2-minute news clip about trade between China and Europe. Then they came back to the solidarity movement in Poland and how they were going to call a national strike, but they're holding off on the national strike. Let's go to Phil Jacobson in Warsaw, and then it was amazing to watch and to see what CNN used to be. And now every hour, all it is hey, we're going to go to the headlines, and it's 2 minutes of headlines, and then another 58 minutes of these cartoonish panels that you're talking about. It was amazing to watch, Tracy.
I'll have to check it out.
So anyway, getting back to what we were talking about originally, CNN, Chris Cuomo. And Dana Bash.
I think she goes by Dana.
Yeah. So, part of the testimony during this impeachment inquiry was there was a conversation that Trump was having on the phone, and someone claimed that they could hear it. But the phone was to Trump's ear. It wasn't a speakerphone for everyone to hear. And
no,
so
here's the story. So this is Sondland, who is the ambassador to the EU, is supposedly on a phone in which I've now come to learn this. Did you know that this was pronounced Kiev? This is what all the cool kids say instead of Kiev.
Really?
Oh, yes. Oh, it's Kiev.
I thought it was always Kiev.
No, you're not in the know. This is how these people are speaking now. Oh. So they were in Kiev on a terrace, I believe, at a restaurant, the day after the phone call between President Trump and President Zelensky. So Sondland's on his phone. Here, I'll demonstrate this. So he's sitting here apparently with his phone up to his head, having a conversation with Trump. And there's another gentleman there that's with him, David Holmes. He's the eavesdropper. So we've got whistleblowers and eavesdroppers. So Holmes says he can hear Trump talking to Sondland through Sondland's phone. And so, of course, we must prove that this is possible, right? Mm. I don't know why. I think Trump baited them into this. I think he's like, there's no way that you can hear that. Because the supposition is that Trump is going deaf and therefore he yells.
Right.
And like, I remember back in the day when my Grammy was still alive and talking on the phone with her, and you could hold it away from your head and hear the whole conversation.
Yes.
Right. So we've all experienced that. So Cuomo thought, okay, I'll show everybody on live TV that he's wrong.
So that's the setup.
Yes.
And you would think someone, I don't know if it almost looks like he sprang this on everyone. Like he didn't give anyone any heads up.
There was no trial run, no.
You would think you would go through a walkthrough before you would do something like this.
Potentially. I mean, they do take commercial breaks.
Yes. But even Dana Bash looked like she was completely caught off guard with this whole phone experiment. So you have the video, Tracy.
I do. And he roped his poor mother into this. And maybe his mother is going deaf and she's a shouter. So he's like, oh, yeah, my mom is so loud on the phone. This is totally going to work. And for those of you who can't see it or haven't seen it, and I don't know how you've avoided seeing this, he tries to hold it up as closely as possible to Dana Bash's lapel mic.
Is it Dana Bash? I thought it was Dana Bash.
Oh, God, I don't know. I don't care how to pronounce her name.
Go ahead.
Dana. Sorry.
Very interesting theory from our president that he has really good hearing. Some would say the best hearing ever. And he's never been able to hear a phone call when it wasn't on speakerphone from anybody. So let's just play with that for a second. Mom, can you hear me? All right. So if I'm holding the phone here, I'm with Dana Bash. You know how you're always telling me to let her talk because she's so smart and I shouldn't.
Did you hear what she said there, Fingers?
I heard her. I didn't know we were going to do what here?
Science experiments. This counts as a science experiment. Excuse me, Dana Bash.
Dana Bash.
We're going to do a little science experiment here. Oh, good Lord. These people are so ridiculous. All right, let's continue with this.
Didn't say so much. Can you just say hello? Mom, she probably can't hear me. Mom, can you hear me?
Could you hear her?
Yes, I hear you. When you talk to me, I hear you.
I'm talking to you. Say hello to Dana Bash.
Hi, Mrs. Cuomo. How are you?
Epstein didn't kill himself.
All right. So I can't hear your mother, Chris. You're over there. So this is across the table. This is not on speakerphone. I'm sitting across the table. It's not on speakerphone. It's regular phone. It's 2 feet away from Dana. She can hear my mother. I'm not sure Mom can hear us. Mom, thank you very much. Thank you for not.
Did he just say that Dana can hear his mother?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So he's just going to lie about that. Even though the whole time Dana looks very uncomfortable because she realizes this is an epic failure.
Well, I have to tell you, after witnessing that, impeach the bastard.
Oh, totally. Just gone. Like, I definitely overheard that conversation.
This has been a really bad week for demonstrations in front of a studio audience.
Oh, yeah?
Well, you had the Tesla Elon Musk truck unveiling. And first of all, the truck looks like RoboCop and a stainless steel refrigerator had a baby and peed on it. I mean, have you seen this truck?
Yeah, it looks like a DeLorean reject.
Yeah. And they threw, apparently it was supposed to have unbreakable glass. And they threw a metal ball at it and broke 2 windows. So that was impressive. And then you have this, and this again. This is CNN now. This is news, and I can't help but think about the video I watched yesterday, where this would never fly. This never would have been on the network back in 1980, 81.
Well, you know what became of this clip, right?
No.
The internet got a hold of it? Oh. Well, let me show you a headline from The Hill. So The Hill says Trump tweets out altered CNN clip mocking Cuomo segment.
I missed this.
Oh, God. This was pinned to the top of Trump's Twitter feed for a full day. But we have to, it's altered fingers. Keep in mind, this is not real. In case you were going to be unaware of that after watching
Interesting theory from our president that he has really good hearing. Some would say. It wasn't on speakerphone from anybody. So let's just play with that for a second. Mom, can you hear me?
What do you want? I keep hearing all these things. What do you want?
All right. So if I were holding the phone here.
And for those of you who can't hear it, the chyron in this has changed. So it says breaking news. To disprove President Trump wrong, Chris Cuomo has a mental breakdown on TV and calls his mom.
I'm with Dana Bash. You know how you always tell me to let her talk because she's so smart and I shouldn't say so much. Can you just say hello?
I want nothing. I want no quid pro quo.
Mom, she probably can't hear. Mom, can you hear me?
If you weren't fake news, you'd cover it properly.
I'm talking to you. Say hello to Dana Bash.
Hi, Mrs. Cuomo.
No, not you. Not you.
How are you?
You are fake news. And your mother is voting for Trump.
All right. I can't hear your mother, Chris.
And so they changed the chyron to Chris Cuomo's mom is voting for President Trump in 2020. Must have been a memorable visit. Oh, God. Oh, man.
I love the internet.
Yeah. But the Hill has to point out that that's an altered clip. That's not really what happened live on CNN. Because clearly nobody would have known that's not Mrs. Cuomo's voice.
I wonder how quickly, if you were to share that on Facebook, it would be flagged and taken down.
I don't know. I'm surprised it's still up on Twitter.
Right?
But it's pretty genius. And they have full memes of his before that, or memes that he's shared before.
Oh, that's beautiful. Well, we talked about this last week, how government sweeps week is not going well.
Right.
For Shifty Schiff. That's fun to say. Just try it.
Yes.
And now we're starting to see the poll numbers, Tracy. And there has been a sharp swing in opposition to the impeachment, especially from independents. And I believe you have the story from thehill.com.
I do. So hang on just a moment. It's going to play funny with me.
But this was to be predicted that this was going to happen with what evidence they had. That people were going to see through.
Headline's kind of cut off, but you get the idea. The headline is: the poll finds sharp swing in opposition to impeachment among independents. So a new national survey finds independent voters leading a sharp swing in opposition to impeachment. The second major poll to produce those findings this week. So an Emerson College poll finds 45% oppose impeaching Trump against 43% who support it. That's a 6-point swing in support from October, when 48% of voters supported impeachment and only 44% opposed. So more importantly, the poll shows more independents now oppose impeachment than support it, a significant change from Emerson's polling in October. The new poll found 49% oppose impeachment compared to 34% who support it. In October, 48% of independents polled supported impeachment against 39% who opposed it. And he's had a job approval rating bump. 5 points up. Oh, man. Yeah, this is not going well. And people are speculating now they might just go to a censure vote instead of an impeachment vote. I don't think that's happening. I think they can't turn back.
I mean, they have to make the play that they tried to impeach this president, but damn it, that Moscow Mitch.
Yeah.
He's such a partisan, and he's in Putin's pocket, and we just couldn't get the Senate to convict. So we did all we could, and I hope that our base will come out and not only vote for us, but we need to flip the Senate and the White House in 2020. That's going to be the messaging. I mean, but what's fascinating about this poll, and something that needs to be watched as we move forward into 2020 is you have these House districts that Democrats flipped or hold right now that voted for Trump, sometimes even heavily for Trump. Those Democrats in those key districts, are they going to be in trouble? Are they going to vote no?
Right, right. Could they possibly lose the floor vote on this?
How embarrassing would that be if they have Democrats in districts that could flip back to red, vote no on impeachment? And I don't have the numbers in front of me about how many districts we're talking about. But if that made the difference, and then Republicans could say, look, there are even Democrats in the House think that this was a show and a sham.
Well, 2 of them voted against even proceeding into this nonsense.
Yeah.
So if you can flip some more, I mean, one of the biggest disappointments has been Tulsi Gabbard that voted for it. I mean, she's already hated by the party. Why not just say, hey, I'll be the one sensible person here and say this is a little bit ridiculous and this is the same kind of stuff. If she were to win, which is never going to happen, she'd be up against this too. The entire state apparatus that has a vested interest in continuing the status quo with foreign policy. You don't think that they would try to undermine her left and right? I mean, it's just such short-sighted thinking. Bernie Sanders, the same thing.
Did you happen to see the Saturday Night Live skit last night of the Democratic the Democratic debate?
No.
Oh, it was great. I mean, they brought back what's his name from Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Larry David.
Yeah, Larry David. And the gal who did Hillary Clinton, who's now doing Elizabeth Warren.
Okay.
Kathy McKeon?
Kate.
Yeah.
Okay.
She does a better Elizabeth Warren than she did Hillary Clinton.
Really?
Oh, it is so good. But they had someone doing Tulsi. And it was funny. The girl doing Rachel Maddow did a great job. And she said, now we're going to turn to the villain on this panel, Tulsi Gabbard. And at one point she said, I'm just here to tell you that I'm not interested in any of your Dalmatians.
I'll have to check it out, and I'll throw it up on the show notes.
Yeah, Woody Harrelson doesn't really sound like Biden, but he kind of looks like Biden, and they write it's finally it's nice to see SNL go after Democrats, and they go after Biden, and it's hilarious. So check that out. But no, you're right. It's I wonder what Tulsi's play is here. I mean, because she's not going to win. She's not running for her House seat. I mean, what's next for her after this is over? I mean, at first I thought, okay, it's going to be some sort of media gig. But where's she going to go? I mean, the left hates her.
RT? Sputnik?
We have friends over at RT. Maybe we can get her a gig there.
Yeah, it's true. I don't know how much they pay. I don't know if it can compete with a congressional salary, but yeah, you're right. I mean, maybe she runs against Mazie Hirono for Senate in a couple of years.
It could be, but I guess the only place she could turn to really is Fox News, right?
Yeah. Well, MSNBC hates her. I saw a graphic. Let me see if I can find this. Joy Reid had tweeted this out. And I found this when I was following, I think yesterday, cancel MSNBC trended on Twitter.
Oh.
I don't know if you noticed that. And I'm like, what's this all about? Well, it's about Andrew Yang, because they keep leaving him off of graphics and all this stuff. Even though he's polling higher than a lot of people that they include in the graphics.
Right.
They just, forget about him, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And he's called them out on it before. So going down that rabbit hole, here we go. So there's all these conspiracy theories, which I love, because I love when the left gets conspiratorial.
Yes.
So here's Joy Reid. Somebody had quote tweeted this and screen capped it in case she tried to delete it. So the original tweet says, with the red panic that has fueled the network for years, now I think it's time that we boycott MSNBC. So Joy Reid had tweeted out, I guess they had this up on her show, Morning Joy, my favorite Saturday cartoon. Russia mentions of Democrat candidates. So, and then to look really, let's see, this was from RT and Sputnik News. This is where they're getting this. So how many times they were mentioned on these outlets. And they have it broken down by how much of it was favorable coverage, how much of it was neutral, and how much of it was unfavorable, they say. Or no, excuse me, unfavorable. So at the top, Joe Biden has, and you got to look really closely to read this. So Joe Biden was mentioned 331 times in either RT or Sputnik coverage. 3% of those were favorable. Okay. Bernie Sanders was mentioned 204 times. 19% of that was favorable. Warren, 155 mentions, 11% favorable. Harris, 95 mentions, 12% favorable. And Gabbard, I think it's 51 mentions and 46% favorable. Ooh, what a scandal. But this is when, so I did some math this morning, and I should have sent this to myself so I could put it up on the screen. But I was like, wait a minute, but how many total numbers of mentions are we saying that were favorable? So when you break that math out, the person with the most mentions that were favorable is Bernie Sanders, 39 times. Tulsi was 28 times. Warren, 17 times. Harris, 11 times. And Joe Biden, 10 times. So we're getting all freaked out about this. 28 times they said something nice out of 1,711 articles that they looked at.
How would you like that gig?
Yeah. I'm sure they're just doing like Control F and type in Tulsi and then read it.
Yeah.
But who's going to fact check them on this? They can make up whatever they want to. But This is how people do with numbers.
Listen, I have as much faith in Russia Today's credibility as I do CNN's.
Mm-hmm. Hey, they were right about the gas attack being a false flag.
And that's not because the bar is incredibly high.
Right.
I mean, but let's face it. I get such a kick out of, leftists still can't let go of the faux news, Fox News isn't real news narrative. And fine, I totally buy it. That's great. Yep, you're right. Fox News is biased.
Yep.
I mean, the batshit craziness that has come out of MSNBC out of the last 3 years. There was a story the other day where they had a guest on who said that that Trump has been a Russian asset since the mid-'70s.
Oh, yeah. You haven't heard this? I think it's... I'm going to... I want to say it was Jonathan Chait who had that theory, but I don't want to misquote him. But whoever came up with this absurd theory that Trump has been an asset for multiple decades is still standing by it. Even after the Mueller report, somebody went to them and were like, but what? And he's like, no, it's still true. They've been courting him since the 80s. And it's like, wait a minute. So the USSR? Okay. How does this work? When it was a totally different government and everything? Nope.
I mean,
don't ask questions. Don't try to make sense of this.
It's leftist InfoWars.
It's worse than that. Because, like you said, the fringe media is now the mainstream media.
Right. But they make it out like Rachel Maddow is a journalist, but Sean Hannity is just a talking head hack.
Mm-hmm.
And you watch them and you think, how are they any different other than their ideology? It's the same crap. They aren't, at least Sean Hannity will say to you, I'm not a journalist.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not.
He's way more animated and not to be taken seriously. He doesn't get up close to the microphone and put on a real concerned face and talk about how Putin's going to shut off the power this winter because he hacked into that Vermont power station, if you'll remember, when that was a thing for a day.
Do you remember Maddow's commentary after Trump won, where she's just looking all snarky into the camera? This is our country now. This isn't a dream. This is where we are. This is us.
No, I had forgotten about that, but thank you for reminding me. I love watching those compilations of everybody melting down.
Do you think that there is a market for a news network that just plays it straight down the middle? Or have we become so conditioned to find media bubbles that only tell us what we want to hear, that there isn't a market for, this is the news, this is what happened today on Capitol Hill, Democrats claim this, Republicans claim that. Let's go on to the next story. This is what happened today. So-and-so said this. So-and-so reacted to these comments. And then go on to the next story and let the viewer decide what they believe is the truth. Is there a market for that? Or have we had such a crappy news environment now for the last few decades to where people have just been conditioned to find their little media bubble? Oh, I'm a conservative, I'm going to watch Fox News because that's where I want to get all of my news, and I won't hear any bad news about Republicans. And oh boy, I really, Orange Man bad. I have to tune into MSNBC to get all of my news. Is there a market for a network that would just play it right down the middle?
I tend to think so. And I mean, maybe the way that you could get away with it is by having co-anchors, that one was from the right, one was from the left. So they would report the news and then they could say, okay, this is how the Republicans are reacting to it. This is how the Democrats are reacting to it. But this is just simply the facts on the ground and not editorialize whatever it was that was being said. I mean, you go back to the Trump stuff from the very beginning, the coming down the escalator talk. When he said, Mexico's not sending their bests, they're sending rapists and murderers and all this stuff. And if that was just reported, like this is exactly what he said, and ended off with, and I'm sure some of them are good people, that's the end of it. But it's been taken for years now, and we hear this. He called all Mexicans rapists.
Right.
And if you had two people sitting side by side, right and left, that could get into that and say, wait a minute. Do you really think that he means that the women that are coming across the border are rapists? That the children that are coming across the border are rapists? That seems like a stretch. And fight it out there and stop the spin, or, address the spins and understand that people are going to be, this has become a team sport. But there are two different worlds going on. And I don't know if you saw this, and I don't think I put it in the prep, so excuse me, but somebody took a picture. And I can't tell where they are, maybe at a gym or something, where there's two television screens side by side showing
I saw that.
And it looks like it's CBS on the left-hand screen and Fox News on the right-hand screen. And the chyron on the CBS side says, Sondland, the ambassador, confirms a quid pro quo. Then, simultaneously on Fox News, it says, Sondland says, Trump says, I want nothing. We're living these parallel realities, and people are quite fond of their own reality.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so much of news today, and part of it has to be because of shrinking budgets in newsrooms. And you see this with newspapers, but let's stick with cable news, where you don't have as many reporters, you don't have as many journalists out there pounding the pavement looking for stories. But even 2 decades ago, it feels like when a story was being reported, say there was impeachment talk, you would have the news station, news network, whether it's CNN or we'll stick with CNN. They would have news for 10 minutes about what happened on Capitol Hill. And then what they would do is they would have one of their anchors have on a Republican and a Democrat. And that would be the end of it. Now, there's barely any news anchor coverage. They may show the live coverage for a little while, which they did the first day of the impeachment inquiry, but then they started to trail off on their coverage. But all it is 9 people speculating on a big panel what's going to happen next, what's going to be said, how will it affect Trump and the election in 2020, and it's unwatchable, and it isn't news. It is a network trying to craft narrative. Mm-hmm.
Well, it's like high school cafeteria. I've been trying to come up with a good analogy for which of the the classic archetypal high school cliques that sit at different tables and which news network is which one. And it's like Fox News is obviously like the jocks and the cheerleaders, right? And then CNN, I don't know, are they the Model UN kids? And then I don't even know where to put MSNBC. That's like the drama club.
Yeah.
But that's what it is. And then they have their friends around, and it's just not, like you said, 9 people. And we have to hear each one of them say some slight variation on what the other one said to make it sound unique. And it's just really the same thing over and over again.
And then you have a battle between these talking heads who want to stick out, that they have to either say something outrageous so they can get their little social media moment, or do something silly like file your nails while the person who is trying to make a point refuting your commentary is talking. And it's, I don't know, Tracy, how people can watch cable news. I just don't, because look at CNN. Go back to what we were just talking about 2 minutes ago, and how, say, 3 decades ago, they would have a news anchor on, and then if they were going to get more in depth on a story, they would bring in one Republican and one Democrat, and they would let those two spin the story, and then they would end the segment. And now, if you go to CNN, they'll have 7 or 8 people on a panel. And is there anyone on CNN that is pro-Trump on any of those panels anymore? I mean,
I don't believe so. I don't know. I barely watch it, so I couldn't tell you accurately whether or not they have anybody pro in there.
But it used to, so. Even before 2016, it used to be, okay, we'll have a panel of 4 people. It'll be 3 libs and 1 conservative. And
right. They might have some never Trumpers in the mix. Like you were talking about Anna Navarro. Is she still on there?
Yes.
Okay. There you go. There's your one Republican. They probably bring out Jennifer Rubin and a bunch of other haters.
Say, well, we're having Republicans on. We're having Jennifer Rubin on. She's a conservative blogger at the Washington Post. I don't know. It's going to be fascinating once this is all over in 2025 when Orange Man Bad leaves office. How the media moves on from Orange Man Bad and covers the next president, whether it's a Republican or a Democrat. It'll probably be a Democrat, but who knows?
Right.
I don't know how you get what little credibility you had back after this whole train wreck.
Well, they seem to have recovered from the Russia hoax.
Is that Americans just have too short of an attention span? I just don't know how you could possibly, after the Russian hoax, get roped right back in. Look, I didn't like Obama, but if I had been led along for 3 years that, oh, hey, listen, gonna get impeached. It's gonna happen for 2 years. And then, well, you know what? That story fell through, but we got another whopper for you. Gonna get impeached. Gonna happen. Man, just use all that energy to come up with a platform and messaging that will win you an election in Ohio, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, and now Minnesota. Do that. Can't do it. Won't do it. We need to change. We need to eliminate the Electoral College, and we need to impeach Orange Man. And then we'll get our power back.
Yeah. Oh, they're starting that. I can't remember where. I read a lot of the lefty sites, and one of them was angry that I think it was Jim Jordan kept referencing the 63 million people that voted for Trump during the impeachment inquiry stuff when he had a chance to talk, and just saying, you guys are trying to overturn an election where 63 million people voted for this president, and you want to undo that. And I think it was Daily Kos maybe where I was reading this, and they're just like, let's point out once again that Hillary Clinton had 65 million votes and rah, 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 rah. So like, this is really stupid for him to bring it up. Yeah, we know Electoral College, blah, 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 but those 65 million people didn't get what they want. So why should 63 million people get what they want? It's just like, oh my God, they're never going to stop. And this is the most boring television show ever. It is. It's like they got to the end of season. It was like 2 seasons, 3 seasons, I guess, with Mueller. And then it's like a gigantic letdown, worst ending ever.
Yeah.
But season 4, it got renewed for some reason. Let's bring on. Let's change up the cast a little bit. Make it, a new country. Forget about Russia. Russia's still tangentially involved in this, of course. And the stunning thing to me, watching the little of this that I did and following it, and I was telling you before we started recording that Steve Bannon, Raheem Kassam, and Jason Miller have been doing a podcast called The War Room, where they've put together what should be going on in the White House to kind of distill what the hell is going on every day in this whole thing and craft a narrative that the right can use to combat the left. And now I don't remember where the hell I was going with that. Oh, listening to all these people that are these supposed experts. So everybody that they dragged up there in the last week and a half, we're supposed to believe they're committed public servants' fingers, and we're talking about Ukraine experts inside and out. Well, none of them knew a damn thing about the Ukraine meddling in the 2016 election, which Politico wrote about it the day after, or right after Trump takes. I don't even know if he was in office yet, but it's 2017. They have a big, long, 18-page, it prints out to, story about all the meddling that was going on, including the Ukrainian ambassador to the United States writing an op-ed about how much he hates Trump. Nope. I don't know what you're talking about. This is a debunked conspiracy theory, is what these people say. The so-called Ukraine experts. They didn't know about Burisma. What's that? What? Excuse me? Like, are you playing dumb or you are dumb? I'd really like to know. It's offensive to me that these people are trotted up there. Oh, these are the experts.
Well, it's offensive to
what's going on.
It's offensive to me that we should be surprised that foreign countries are trying to meddle in our elections. It's not what we don't meddle in foreign elections,
right?
And between that, now this is all the rage. Listen, I highly recommend, and I know we really need to stop talking about the Clintons, but they keep coming back like a case of herpes over and over again. And there's a great book by the late great Christopher Hitchens called "No One Left to Lie To," and talks about the Clinton years and what an awful person Bill Clinton is and what an awful person Hillary Clinton is. And one of the things that's brought up in the book, and if you were around and following politics in 96, 97, 98, all of the meddling from the Chinese government and Chinese government donations illegally to the Clinton campaign. There's been foreign meddling
since the United States came into existence.
Yes. But this time around, holy crap.
Yeah.
This is different because Orange Man bad.
Well, you remember the Chinese hacked the OMB and they got into all the records of federal employees during the Obama years. They don't no, not a big deal. The Russians definitely did this, even though we can't show you any smoking gun proof.
What is it about Trump, you think, that broke so many people?
Well, it's a combination of things, right? They don't like that he's not. You couldn't take him to a dinner party. Yeah,
I'd like a steak well done and give me the bottle of ketchup.
right. Like he's not an elitist. He's not an elitist's elite, right? He's not going to fit in there. Like, yeah, he went to Penn and went to the Wharton School, but please, he's a blue collar dude, right? He doesn't try to come off. He doesn't put on airs. Let's say he's not that concerned with manners. Although he did quite well with the Queen. They liked him. So he dressed up nice, put on the tails. And I just don't think he's not their idea of who should be at their dinner party. They would never let him in the door. And so there's that. And I think, they were legitimately scared about him saying, I'm going to root out the corruption in Washington.
Well, do you think if he would have beat Bernie Sanders in the general election, there would have been this kind of sustained outrage about Trump? That part of me feels like so much of this was he ruined a historical moment We were going to have our first woman president, Tracy, and he crushed our dreams. And he must pay. Maybe.
But I don't know. I think that they were going to freak out regardless. Because this is, as Scott Adams likes to say, that Trump, when he comes to a situation that seems unwinnable, he likes to shake the box and throw out all these other options that nobody would ever have thought of. And I think that's what it is. He's just like shaking them to their core that some outsider could come in here, galvanize the American people with a message of, I'm going to clean up the swamp. You got to imagine that those people are a little bit nervous. And now, Lindsey Graham's out saying he's going to start investigating the Bidens and asked the State Department to turn over anything that they have related to Burisma and what the hell was going on with that when Biden was vice president.
And the collective yawn coming from Washington just shows how broken our system is. Mm-hmm. Why would anyone care about that? That's just the way it is.
Well, but they say it's debunked. Like any article you read about this in left-wing media, they say this allegation that's completely debunked. Like there was nothing untoward to be seen here at all.
It's a great move by them.
Right.
The Clintons started that as far as I'm concerned. Oh, yeah. This is old news. This story has been debunked. If you just say it over and over again.
Yeah. Can you point me to the debunked thing? Where can I find that? Because they don't disagree that that he worked there, right? So what's the point of contention here? What has been debunked? That there was anything shady going on? Okay, you explain to me why this company decided to put somebody that had just gotten thrown out of the Navy without even serving, that would get special dispensations to get in there to begin with, gets tossed out for cocaine use?
I believe so, yes.
History of, yeah. Well, I'm trying to remember his bullshit story about those two he just bummed a cigarette off these South African guys.
The cocaine cigarettes.
Yeah, that happens. So, and he's been in and out of rehabs, been broke. I mean, there's no reason to put him on a board. Like, I get putting people on boards for vanity reasons. You want to say so-and-so's on my board. Great. They don't know anything about it. But this doesn't make any sense. The guy seems like a time bomb. So, but that hasn't been debunked. Nobody's coming out and saying, no. He said himself that he's had drug problems.
Well, again, I don't remember who it was, but it was a Republican senator. He was being interviewed by Chuck Todd. And he said, well, you think they got Hunter Biden's name out of ZipRecruiter? Seriously, there's so little intellectual curiosity about how Hunter Biden got that job from the mainstream media. But you know damn well, and I know it's an whataboutism, or it's very easy to point out the double standard, but you know damn well if you replace the names Hunter Biden and Joe Biden with Liz Cheney and Dick Cheney, Chuck Todd would be a hell of a lot more interested in that story than he is now.
Of course. But it's just, at some point, do they have to give up the ghost and say, oh, this is kind of serious?
They're going to when they believe that Joe Biden is going to get the nomination and he may get his clock cleaned by Donald Trump. I mean, Joe Biden is a gaffe a minute, and you have the latest one for everyone. Listen, we had a debate the other night. I freely admit I didn't watch it, like most of America. And here's the great thing about it. I mean, timing is just terrible. You have the government sweeps week, the impeachment inquiry, on all throughout the day. And then, as if anyone was still interested in politics after that, you have a 3-hour debate.
Yeah, they actually cut it to 2 hours, and I guess they went a little long, 2 hours and 15 minutes. So I made it through, I think, the first hour and a half, and then decided bed more entertaining.
Whoa.
What?
Whoa. You're telling me that they had an all-female panel asking these candidates questions, and that's when they cut it from 3 hours to 2 hours? Sexism, Tracy L. Connors. Sexism.
Good point.
Oh, if they had men up there, then we'd have a 3-hour debate, Tracy.
Of course. Cancel MSNBC. Hop on that hashtag right now.
So, Somehow the topic of domestic violence.
Yes, this was after I went to bed. So this isn't a pressing issue, apparently, because it wasn't at the top of the debate. But, I guess that came up at some point later in the evening when Joe Biden's batteries had run down even more. No, this is so bad. It's really sad to watch him. And I think it was The Atlantic put out a piece this week trying to run cover for him. Because this is the first I've ever heard of this. Tell me if you've heard this, Fingers. Joe Biden has a stutter.
He does?
He struggled with it his whole life. So when you see him gapping, it's just because he's trying to overcome the stutter.
Well, as you know, if you are a Democrat running for president, you have to have some sort of victimhood credits.
This is true.
So you had Elizabeth Warren. She was fired when she was pregnant by a principal who found out she was pregnant. Right. And the principal did what principals did back then and fired her, apparently, allegedly. So you have to have your victimhood credits. It's like carbon credits. And so you can't really think of one for Joe Biden because
his family was killed in a car accident.
Oh, yeah, you're right. I just went back to the standard white guy. There's no victim. But he has had a hard life. He lost his wife and his first wife, right, in a car accident.
Yes.
So
one of his children.
So that should be the victimhood. That should be enough victimhood credits for Joe Biden. But now you've got he's been stuttering his entire life or whatever. That's the first I've heard of it. I've got a little bit of a stutter. I understand. Oh, I got to start adding up my victimhood credits. Stutterer. Fat. I've got an eating disorder.
There you go.
I can't put down the fork. Got to add this stuff up. Okay, so anyway, back to Joe Biden. So Joe Biden was having his typical Biden moment at the debate, and you have the audio.
Yeah, this is just because he stutters, mind you. Let's start from that premise, okay? For this, here we go. 2 seconds.
Wait a second.
There we go.
Safer on college campuses and on your schools. You know what they said? Get men involved. Engage the rest of the community. And that's when we started this movement on the college campuses to fundamentally change the culture. No man has a right to raise a hand to a woman in anger other than in self-defense, and that's rarely ever occurs. And so we have to just change the culture, period, and keep punching at it and punching at it and punching at it. It will be a big no, I really mean it. It's a gigantic issue, and we have to make it clear from the need to make you.
Even the crowd laughed at him, like, "Oh no, he couldn't make it throughout a whole." And did you notice? I love when they're talking and they feel like they're giving an applause line,
and they pause.
Yeah, how their tone and their pacing changes. There is no reason to ever raise your hand in anger on a woman. And nothing happened.
Unless it's in self-defense, which was a weird one to throw in there, which hardly ever happens.
Yeah.
But maybe that's a tell. Did he hit a woman that hit him? I don't know. I mean, we can pretend to read his mind and think, oh, that one time at the pool.
Yeah. This woman walked up to him and said, "I'm sick of your stutter." Slapped him upside the head.
Oh, man. And he just hit her back. This self-defense, which hardly ever happens, but we're allowed to do that, right?
You have to really be on your game if you're trying to be the Democratic nominee. Right? Because you have to make a point, and then you have to think while you're making the point, okay, is this going to offend 0.2% of the population? I better clarify my remarks. I better backtrack a little bit. And you have to do all that on your feet. And when you're 97 years old with a stutter, and you haven't had a nap in 2.5 hours, it's difficult.
It's true. It's true. It was painful, and the ratings for this debate sucked.
Of course.
I think it was 6.5 million people tuned in for this.
Well, and so much of running for president is how your campaign handles the news cycle and how they spin things and how they craft a narrative. Because people aren't watching. Just like the debate, the impeachment inquiry. People aren't watching. So they're relying on how it's being reported to find out what happened that day. And that's what is dangerous. Because you're having people. There have been several occasions where Republicans have had a couple of minutes to cross-examine a witness, and they said, "Did you hear the president say anything? Have you talked to the president? Have you been in the same room with the president?" No, 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 no. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Will
so
you
you
see
just
that?
put this up in your mind. I mean, that's what happened with Sondland, right? And this is why you get those dueling headlines that we showed earlier. Because the way they had it set up is the Democrats got to go first in everything. Mm-hmm. So in the morning session with Sondland, it was all Democrat time. And then Schiff says, and this is when I started listening because I was, occasionally tuning into C-SPAN radio. So I tune in and Schiff's like, I think that we need to take a quick bathroom break. Does that sound good to everybody? And bathroom break is code for I'm going to run out and give a presser.
Right.
So he runs out, gets in front of the cameras and says, Sondland just told everybody that Trump told him, I want this in exchange for this. Like there was definitely this whole quid pro quo deal. This was a bribe, whatever we're calling it today. Then they come back in and the Republicans take the guy apart and get him to admit that, like, no. One of them said, did anybody on the planet Earth tell you that President Trump wanted XYZ in exchange for this? No. Okay. So what they've said this morning has now been debunked, since we like that word so much, but it's too late. You've already got the media reporting it, headlines everywhere. Even the next day on newspaper headlines, they were reporting the opposite of what was true. So, Adam Schiff should be doing communications, I guess, for some of these guys. Maybe their campaigns would be doing better.
Yeah, and he said, okay, Adam Schiff is out there giving a press conference right now. What he's saying is wrong, and the chyron on CNN right now is wrong.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the chyron said exactly what you just said.
Right.
It's what a time to be alive.
It is. It is hilarious. If you just sit back and look at this as a comedy show and just pray that they don't end up stealing more of our freedom and money in the end of it all.
Yeah. Well, we only have a few minutes left, Tracy. Do you want to dive into, we've talked in the past about your love of vaping and how it got you off of cigarette smoking. You were a 3-pack-a-day smoker before you started vaping.
Yes.
Yep. I'm still amazed by that. How did you sleep? Taking that much nicotine, and I know you love your coffee, too.
Yeah.
What did you get, like 2 hours sleep a night?
No. I slept a couple hours a night. It was all right. So,
finally, it looks like there is some pushback when it comes to we were thinking of a few weeks ago that Trump may significantly step up regulations on vaping. Mm-hmm. And now it looks like they're taking a pause, taking a step back, taking a breath.
Yep. They decided not to push through the flavor ban. So I had a lot of fun reading this in a bunch of different outlets because they're all appalled, of course. Oh, God. Yeah. Here's the headline from Bloomberg reports Trump's vaping ban is stalled after an industry lobbying push. Of course, he caved. It had nothing to do with the fact that there was a big protest that took place the same day as the Alabama LSU football game, right outside of the White House, where a whole bunch of vapors came down there. Thousands of them turned out. There was a whole online campaign called I Vape, I Vote, and Brad Parscale, who's in charge of the Trump campaign, had come to Trump and showed him that this was going to be a big problem for him in swing states. So could it be that he was listening to people and not to the lobby? But Axios did a little bit more of a fair job, and it says Trump worries ban on flavored vape products could boost illegal sales. Imagine that, just what we've talked about.
Right.
So he's worried about prohibition, right? So they say in this, Trump compared the ban to the 1920s prohibition. If you don't give it to them, it's going to come here illegally. That's the one problem I can't seem to forget. You just have to look at the history of it. And now instead of having a flavor that's at least safe, they're going to be having a flavor that's poison. Pretty simple, right?
Yes.
Unbelievable. But then, of course, they have to shit all over this.
Well, I mean, going back over the weeks that we've covered this, most, if not all, of these injuries that have occurred from vaping are because someone turned to a black market type source for their juice.
Yes. None of these were sold by a legitimate establishment. These didn't come from any Juuls bought at any stores, nor did they come from any vape shop that and if they did, that vape shop would have been raided months ago and we would have heard all about it.
Right.
So this was nonsense, and I'm glad that they woke the hell up and decided not to do this. Although the state of Massachusetts passed a ban of their own. So they've banned all flavored nicotine, and I think they banned menthol cigarettes too.
Well, that's a travesty.
Right. But imagine how many vape shops there are. I don't know about you in Indiana, but in Pennsylvania, I see a vape shop every couple blocks.
Yeah. Well, as someone who used to smoke menthol cigarettes,
right.
I'm outraged.
You should be. It's just silly. It's like, let adults do it. Crack down on people that sell to kids. End of story. How hard is this?
Well, again, it's how effective your lobbying group is. I mean, I had a friend who loved her whipped cream flavored vodka.
Wait a minute. They make whipped cream flavored vodka fingers?
Yes.
That's targeting children.
Yes. Smirnoff does it, those damn Russians. And so why is it okay for alcohol to have these flavors? Get a bubblegum shot. Get a raspberry schnapps. Root beer flavored schnapps. I mean, what adult...
Whiskey now, right?
Yeah. Tracy, what adult drinks root beer schnapps?
I don't know any, but I'm sure there are some.
Ban it all. Ban.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so good. We're taking a step back, and cooler heads are prevailing for the time being when it comes to vape. Because as we know, and as the president points out, if you are someone who likes your flavored juice, you're going to find a way to get your flavored juice. Why not have it come from a reputable source?
Right.
Instead of the juice man in a trench coat.
Well, and the other thing that I was looking at, because I was a little bit worried about it, the flavor that I use is called Naked. So there's not really a flavor. And sometimes I use what's called Sweet Naked. So there's a little tiny bit of flavor. I'm not a fan of the flavors. It gives me a headache. Uh-huh. But I'm like, well, what am I going to do? Because I'm assuming they're going to come after even zero flavor. It's because it seemed to be, we're only going to leave the nicotine flavors on the market. And you know how easy it is to cook up your own stuff at home? It's pretty damn easy.
Is it?
I found a bunch of different sites. Yeah, some of the sites that sell all the other accoutrement, like the batteries and the tanks and all this, they sell your own, like, here's your liquid nicotine. Would you like PG or VG? And then these are the flavor enhancers we can send you in the mail. So it's like, okay. I'll just start ordering my own liquid nicotine and then just be done with this whole mess.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. So they can't stamp it out, is the point.
Well, good.
Yeah.
Well, we're an hour in. Anything else, Tracy?
No, I think we're good.
Remember, you can catch the Enough Already podcast on Apple Podcasts. And if you are there and you're downloading the show, how about leaving us a review? Preferably a 5-star review. But leave us a review. That'd be great. It would help us out a lot to get the Enough Already podcast in front of more people. And, of course, if you're a Android person, there are plenty of places you can find the Enough Already podcast. TuneIn and Google Play and Stitcher. It's everywhere. And if you're wanting to see our bright, smiling faces while we're doing the show, you can check it out on YouTube and BitChute. Final thoughts, Tracy?
I'm ready to eat some stuffing and mashed potatoes this week.
Worst side at a Thanksgiving table?
You're asking me to name the worst side?
Yes. What is the worst side that you see on a Thanksgiving table?
I don't know. There aren't any that I encounter at my family's Thanksgiving that I dislike. And all I eat at Thanksgiving is sides because I don't eat birds.
Yeah.
So.
I'm not a big stuffing guy, but also, stuffing's terrible. Celery and but the other thing, green bean casserole is awful too. But the canned cranberry sauce.
Oh, I kind of like that.
Do you?
Yeah, it's all right.
So it's all sides for you.
Yeah, it's all sides. The plate is usually like 50-50 mashed potato stuffing.
Nice.
And then if there's sweet potatoes, those are going on there too. I like the green bean casserole. Don't mind the cranberry. I like cranberry bread. So, and then pumpkin pie, of course.
Oh, well, make sure to take a picture of your Thanksgiving Day plate.
No, but everybody should remember to tune into Twitter and look for the hashtag. It usually happens every Thanksgiving, struggle plates.
Yeah.
Where you feel bad because people are eating off of Trinette and stuff like this, and it just looks like a big old mess. But
do you?
No, I don't.
I mean, but they're taking a photo and throwing it, throwing it on Twitter from their iPhone. I mean, priorities. Yes, right. I do feel bad seeing someone's cut up hot dog and fiery Cheetos on a paper plate until I'm like, well, they're taking a picture from their $600 cell phone and probably have a $80 a month cell phone bill. Maybe divert some of the cell phone funds into the food budget. That's all.
Yeah. No,
all right. She's Tracy. I'm Fingers. Thanks so much for tuning in. We hope you have a very happy Thanksgiving, and we will be back soon with an all-new Enough Already.